Onic, they bring in the Kufra to deal with the Harrier mobility as well as the Haya. I like this. They've got a lot of answers to this. They've got a lot of CCs. You know, I think that's the thing about Juicy, right? You need to have heroes that has a lot of CC for you to build up those stacks in order to use the Lantern and drag somebody back into the play. So in this case, Fnatic Onic, they have a decent amount of CCs, decent amount of AoEs here, whereas Smart Omega, they're banging on the fact that I think it comes down to who catches each other's tempo. So that's something that I think Smart Omega has put a very, very solid lineup to test Fnatic Onic's draft.
A pretty scary lineup when it comes down to Fnatic Onic. When it comes, especially when Terrence did mention the Kufra plus choosing combination working on Hayabusa, real scary. But with that all said, we are going to be jumping into game number 2 between Fnatic Onic versus Smart Omega. Thank you, Terrence, onto the panel. We will invite him again once game number 2 is over. How is this gonna be like? Is it a 2-0 in favor for Fnatic Onic, or will Smart Omega be able to defy the gods and give us a 1-1?
I guess we'll find out, won't we, ladies and gentlemen? Game number 2, Onic currently one game up on Smart Omega. Considering that Omega is already officially eliminated from the competition, there are no longer any stakes in this game for them, and it is a chance for them to just bring something out for the sake of pride.
So right off the bat, we are looking at both of the junglers trying to be as fast as possible, and it doesn't seem like they are working in the same way. Fnatic Onic have decided to start off on the gold side, while for the side of Smart Omega, they decided to start from the EXP side. So at least there is some form of vertical jungling from Kyrie to work on. He didn't really do what we saw in game number 1, whereby he start off in the EXP, end up on the gold, and then level 3 immediately start poking the gold later.
He actually decided not to gank at level 3, which is a very common move for Julian, and I think that is respecting the possibility of Smart Omega grouping up together and roaming, because they have a Grok and an Aurora. If he runs into the wrong brush, he will get caught. There's a very good chance he gets taken out, especially since he figures Endoryu will likely be close to level 4 as well. But because of the way that Keyboy has been assisting in stealing camps, the Hayabusa actually a little behind on EXP.
So right here in the middle lane, Endoryu unfortunately is just a shy bit away from getting the Ogi shadow kill. As such, Keyboy didn't manage to find himself running away real quickly with just a sliver of health.
Looks like Kyrie actually gonna focus on just hard scaling this game. Despite the fact that he knows he already has a level lead on Endoryu, Fnatic Onic is not interested in contesting Turtle.
Yeah, so honestly, Smart Omega, they want to focus onto these standing objectives. Endoryu, unfortunately and definitely not on the same level as Kyrie. Kyrie and friends seems like they want to skill up a little bit more for the later parts, but in the meantime, middle lane seems like we do have Ryota that finds himself being airborne and comboed up with the Edith, but somehow Ryota manages to run away, while the Crimson Beacon coming from the side of Sans did manage to activate Yoinks Chaknu back into the front line, but it's not gonna do too much from that point on.
A good attempt from Onic. You could see the combo of Azusin into the Edith for a lot of single target lockdown. The reason they didn't kill Ryota was because Uki's timing was actually really good with the freeze from Aurora. It stopped them in their tracks before they could follow up and allowed Ryota to dash away.
There we go. That is going to get another combo, but unfortunately Keyboy actually misses out the hit onto the side of Chaknu. The Goddess Barrier activates, and that is going to cut things out a little bit more as Endoryu took that opportunity and brings Keyboy down.
I think Onic themselves recognize that they'll probably have a little less damage compared to Omega early on, so I think they're just trying to hard scale to the stage where CW and Sans are going to be able to more effectively participate in team fights. And that means that this is a very valuable window for Omega. If they're able to stifle the aggression from Onic and stop them from this scaling strategy, then they actually have a pretty good foothold in this game.
So coming up onto this, CW currently, he does have a 2100 gold onto himself, while unfortunately Jome, the master of all trades, with a total of 2500 gold. Okay, we're just gonna see a little bit of a change from the start of CW. He's slowly trying to climb up in gold as much as possible, but the top 2, when it comes down to the gold leaderboard, is kind of flicking around between Jome and Endoryu, suggesting that Smart Omega, they're actually doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think though, what Onic is doing is they're trying to play for late game. Hold on.
A really good jump right down the Jome, but not quite enough, or it's not exactly something that Fnatic Onic wants to continue.
Yeah, I think Onic wants to play for late game because we already know how scary Zeusyn is once she has 3 items. We know how scary Carrie can be once she has her Trinity completed. So even though they have Kyrie on the Julian, who should be able to snowball off of
More aggressive, and that is where Fnatic Onic will come in together with that aggression.
Well, looks like we're back. Very nice, and thank you once again to our marshals for resolving things so quickly.
Well, the Tyrant's Rage did manage to land onto Ukir, forces Ukir to actually work with the... Oh, it kind of seems as though it was the Crown, but it's not gonna be the case. We do have Ukir joining back to the team fight once again, being able to get a kill on the Suns. Lutpi, the next one down. The Keyboy jumps in, Tyrant's Revenge, lands on top of the Andoryu. Kyrie took the opportunity and brings him down. The turtle will now be slain by the hands of Kyrie. And now Fnatic Onic really happy with the results. They have only lost Sans as well as Lutpi for quite a bit of a favor.
We can actually... I feel like that last sequence is... Oh, wow, it's not over.
Yeah, Kyrie still want to be aggressive on Ukir, but Ukir still within the heart of the turret and right under the nose of it. This is going to be safe sound for now.
Oh, I don't know if Kyrie knew Jome was in there, but he just found him by accident.
But I don't think that Jome will want to continue the fight, as now he purifies himself, ensuring that he would not go down or would not be yoinked out by Sans. But it doesn't seem like it is going to be enough, as he's going to go straight down. The next one on the chopping block is going to be Chapnu. That combination coming from Kyrie and Sans is unfortunately not going to be activated just yet, allowing Chapnu to slip off.
He actually wasted his wild charge though, so that's actually something Onic was able to bait out. I like that Andoryu used the opportunity to steal away the purple buff, so a little bit of a win there from Omega. But you can see Onic just upping the momentum the moment they won that previous team fight. They had a really good presence of mind that even though they already lost Lutpi and the rest early on, they still targeted Andoryu and got the turtle.
As the rest of Fnatic Onic, they are drawing a line on the entire map. Keyboy is right above of the second tier defense turret in the bottom lane. While the rest of Fnatic Onic will just going in to steal the opponent's purple buff. Smart Omega knew enough to not jump in and not jump the gun. As we have said before, Smart Omega seems to have a pretty good trigger discipline, and they're just really observing what goes on around the map.
Yeah, I hope that they don't take too long though, because right now the game is going exactly what Onic wanted it to be. And by the way, when we discussed during the draft, we wondered that this could be a Thunderbuck carry. No, CW is going for the Trinity, and I think that is in line with what Onic is doing. If they were aiming to fight a lot early on, Thunderbuck carry makes sense. But if they're going for the scaling instead, then just going straight for your damage items is the obvious choice.
Yeah, and I think the Fnatic Onic is really happy with the progression thus far. In the meantime, the final slash is going to be landing on 3, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like Chapnu will be able to land any much out over the wild charge. Well, Andoryu goes onto the back line, was hoping he will be able to do enough damage on the Lutpi as he goes onto the primal range. Keyboy all alone, hoping that he will be able to do something, but he's going to be in the hearts of Smart Omega, allowing a double kill on top of Jome. The next one they want to do is to bring down the tier 1 in the middle lane as soon as possible.
And this is what Smart Omega needs to continue doing. They are thriving in the chaos of battle. If they're able to just run down Onic at this stage, Onic, who is committed for a scaling playstyle, is not going to be able to quite respond in kind. A lot of that thanks to Ukir controlling the front lines and making sure that Onic is being punished for walking too far in front. I think Lutpi is still doing a great job. He was on top of Andoryu that entire fight, and that is why Kyrie was still able to get the turtle despite the disadvantage, but it cost him his life. So Omega actually evening up the odds right now. Net worth difference basically 0.
Yeah, there is almost nothing at all. So Smart Omega came into that fight pretty effectively with Keyboy and Kyrie down. They are definitely working their way into something a little bit of a bigger scale of things later on. But what exactly will Smart Omega do right now? Because they managed to take down the T1 in the middle lane and the top lane. The bottom lane still is a little bit of a threat because, as you can see, Smart Omega lost T1 and T2 in the bottom lane. They're gonna have to really watch out for any potential split push from the side of Fnatic Onic.
Split pushing, it seems to be one of Omega's biggest weaknesses because, again, this is a team that really plays closely together and is able to win team fights through that way.
They have a Hayabusa, though.
Yeah, Andoryu was doing split pushing earlier on, but you can see that he doesn't do it quite as actively as Onic. They're just splitting their members all the time. When they group up, they instantly try to make something happen, and if it doesn't work, then they spread again.
I would say the Fnatic Onic definitely will have some macro plays in order to get themselves the turrets. Like that drawing a line in the bottom lane is what they wanted and what they did. But for now, it is going to be the wall shot that is going to be landing right down on Lutfi, and a chain frost down onto Lutfi brings him down. And this is the fight for Onic as they are going to be retaliating. Kyrie gets himself a single kill, but Jome takes him down instead. A really good vengeance fight. While Jome, he runs back with a really good synchro chrono dash to get himself a little bit more shields. Smart Omega, they still have quite a lot of people to work around. And Andoryu with the OE Shadow kill brings Sans down. Immediately brings himself all the way back onto the Shadow to be safe and sound. This is Smart Omega's retaliation. Bring 3 men down and having the priority on top of the Lord.
This is what we want to see. Omega taking advantage of Onic wanting to split the map to find a tempo in between. He's got a Clock and Bloodwing.
Bloodwings too.
Not too sure if he intends to go for Brute Force Breastplate as
I mean,
the
he's
third
tanky
item.
now. He's pretty tanky, so...
It's enough, but you usually need that third item before Zeusin really becomes the hero that you can never run away from. So I think it's very good that Omega has decided, alright, we gotta play for this timing, we gotta rush them down, and they're able to punish because what Terrence highlighted about the Aurora is actually correct. I do feel like them playing around Ukir has been the main point of what's been allowing them to get this lead.
Right. So since we are now back to the game, thank you so much to Terrence for coming in with that interjection. Gives us a really good idea about what we should be looking out for. Namely, it is going to be Ukir. With the Lord that's just going to be marching down middle lane, Fnatic Onic have got quite a bit to work with. As we now have the final slash landing right down onto Lutfi. Again, when it comes down to the Frigid Frost, making sure that he will not be able to retaliate or do anything at all. Keyboy, unfortunately, is going to be the next one onto the chopping block. Smart Omega doing an amazing job thus far before it even lands onto the inhibitor turret. Smart Omega have already taken 2.
They're coming in with vengeance right here. Onic have done a good job. They've cleared up the Lord, so they only take a little bit of damage on their inhibitor, but Omega is just pushing it.
They're still the holy defense, as now all of the creeps is just going to be wiped out already. Smart Omega, they are working on a counter-strafing kind of game, and they still manage to take out more kills onto Kyrie and CW.
This is probably the best that Smart Omega have looked thus far, and they seem a lot more confident with the way that they're executing their team fights. Perhaps the pressure of no longer having to play to claim a spot in the playoffs is lifting a bit of a weight off their minds, because you're seeing the way that they're taking these fights is really good. They have players diving in the backline, taking control, causing disruption. Again, Ukir being a very important role, because Lutfi is not getting to do the typical Edith thing. He's just getting bursted the moment the fight starts.
Yeah.
And that means that this hero kind of amounts to nothing.
It's kind of scary what a Aurora can really bring onto the table. To whoever just kind of looking at Edith and finds that Edith is really annoying, or in fact, any annoying tank per se, Aurora comes in real clutch to really just disable that one frontliner. Smart Omega is working out this front to back very darn effectively.
What Onic will need to do now is, again, adapt and change their positioning. The reason why Lutfi is always getting bursted at the start of the fight is the way that Kufra works is that he actually waits a bit. Hold on.
Yep, he waits a bit and he lands. As now, he did manage to get a really nice lockdown to Chaknu, but Chaknu flickers away. And they is barely alive. Fnatic Onic used quite a bit just to get him down, but it's not too big of a deal, as the Lord will be back in only 10 seconds, which will take some time for Fnatic Onic to get their ultimates back.
Yeah, CW gonna need to wait until I think he's full items before he can really burst down a player like Chaknu. If it's anyone else, I think he'd be able to get rid of them there, but the Grok actually is pretty tanky at this stage, even having that Dominance Ice to slow down CW's damage overall. So,
Keyboy in the action, lands on the Chaknu, but it's not gonna be a motivation to start a fight.
yeah, I think that is why Smart Omega, they want to be the ones in control of the fight, and Onic doesn't want to force a situation when they know they're already behind in farm. So a bit of a gentleman's agreement there to back off.
Oh, Sans gets himself running backwards with the Crimson Beacon. Lutbeat manages to land a pretty nice Earth Shatter, just disengaging for the entirety of Fnatic Onic. But now they found us a little bit of opportunity while really whittling down the HP of Chaknu. So the quick little Conceal gets himself running away. The Lord priority ultimately will go over to the side of Fnatic Onic for now.
That was very dangerous positioning by Sans right there. We know that Zeusin can eat some damage, but he came dangerously close to being picked off. Though Onic actually followed up on that well by punishing Omega for diving into the jungle to try and finish off the Zeusin. No casualties though, so we end up being reset to 0 and maybe dealing with a bit of a Lord dance here. And I also have to note, Sans' third item is a glowing wand. It is not a brute force breastplate, so he's actually not very tanky.
I would say that with the Blood Wings, it allows him to be relatively tanky already. So I would say give and take, right? You kind of change it away, change the Brute Force Breastplate away for a Blood Wings. You constantly get yourself the amount of shields, which allows you as a Juicin to play poke. So when you poke the opponents, they poke back, you have your shields, and once your shield is depleted, you join back to the fight, you join back to poke later, you get back those shields. It's essentially some form of renewable health.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I mean, that is the reason why we see Bloodwings being used by so many different heroes nowadays. It's just such an efficient item overall. But because of the way Zeusin works, you do typically want to also have that Brute Force Breastplate. Because that is the point...
crowd control, right?
Yeah, that is the point where Zeusin is kind of difficult to get rid of. And by going for Glowing Wand instead, it means that he's committing to actually a DPS playstyle, which is understandable, but risky.
I think that the main reason for the Glowing One really is just to deal with Jome. Jome is really darn annoying. I mean, 6:1:3 is the current scoreline. So we are looking at kind of like a front-to-back game from the side of Fnatic Onic. They deal with the front lines and then eventually onto Jome. They need to eventually be able to ensure that the shield generated by Jome is not going to out-heal the damage potential from Fnatic Onic.
That is true. We have to remember that Necklace of Durance was combined into Glowing Wand, so it does offer those same properties without forcing your opponent to attack you in the same way that Dominance Ice does. Looks like Onic, though, have actually been able to zone out Smart Omega, the Glowing Wand actually playing a role in slowly whittling down the opponent's HP and forcing them back to reposition. But will it be enough?
The next item for Sans definitely gonna have to be the Ice Queen's Wand, and once that item eventually pops up for Fnatic Onic, I think Smart Omega will have to kind of play possum and be really afraid for any form of these poke potentials that Sans will be able to bring onto the board.
Looks like Onic going to reset here. Got multiple members going back to regen HP. They're able to do this because you can see from the waves that Onic have actually set up pushes onto Omega's half of the map, and because they see that their players are going to deal with that, they have a bit of free time to go back and regroup without risk of Omega maybe coming in and blitzing the Lord.
There we go. Tyrant's Revenge, Tyrant's Rage, landing right on top of Chaknu. This time, Chaknu is the one that would not be able to do anything, but unfortunately, Luffy is going to be the next one onto the chopping block. Jome doesn't have a lot of HP left, thus he's just going to work under the beetle to get his HP back. Keyboy flickers himself backwards. Bouncing ball, he's going to be safe and sound for now.
We can see now Smart Omega in a bit of a difficult situation. They still have the gold lead, but remember how I mentioned CW will only become a threat when he has his full items? Well, he does. He completed his Malefic Roar a little while ago, and you can see how difficult it is for people to stand up to him.
A waiting game down in the bottom lane. We have a very slow push for Fnatic Onic, and they are just waiting for that opportunity. The moment that they see even one hero down in the bottom lane, expect aggression from Fnatic Onic.
Smart Omega will need to make sure to deal with that, but they also got to make sure they have enough players here in the Lord pit to prevent Onic from doing the same thing, blitzing the Lord when they know they have a numerical advantage. Taknu gonna continue scouting.
And it does seem like Kyrie will be able to enhance and get the Lord down very amazingly. Keyboy, Kyrie, next one, down. Unfortunately, Chaknu is surprisingly still alive because of the immortality. As such, CW, Lutpi, and Sans, they're gonna have to go back all the way through. It all lies on the Sans. He's gonna have to pick people up and throw them right back. But Lutpi frozen down once again. Primal Wrath, he's gonna be staying alive for a little while longer. But Dome gets himself the godlike. The Lord pushes down and marches in from the bottom lane. Gives Fnatic Onic a little chance to breathe. But is it really enough for Sans to defend this all alone against 4 members?
This is gonna be a 4v1 situation. Another 10 seconds before Keyboy comes back. Omega could blitz this.
He can't clear waves fast enough, unfortunately. As such, Smart Omega gets himself the 1 game away from Fnatic Onic, the 2-0 that I predicted. My socks, guys, my socks. It doesn't mean anything no more.
Your socks did not help us here, but I think Smart Omega are gonna be very happy about that. Yes, it's not going to matter for making it into the playoffs, but it gives them a little bit of that pride back because they were able to take down a very powerful opponent.
Ice Queen's won, Glowing won, the Queen's Wings, Clock of Destiny onto the side of Sans. It doesn't have enough damage. It doesn't really do anything. That is the weakness that we see from Jusin. So perhaps playing the long game from FNOC didn't quite work out. What do you think about this, Terrace? Is it really about the late game that FNOC can't prepare for?
You know, that's the thing about Jusin, right? Like, it's either you go ultra late or you go mid game. In this case, Sans opted to go for the utility playstyle. So going for Glowing Wand and Ice Queen Wand is much necessary in a way to kind of set things up for his teammates. But the problem with this build is that it's so expensive. And the thing of how you need to build Jusin is you need to go for Clock of Destiny because of the mana issue. And then you need to go for Blood Wings for that additional movement speed. So that's the problem. 2 major items that is very, very expensive. And on top of it all, usually at this stage, you kind of need that Glowing Wands already in play. First item Glowing Wands, or maybe even second, or either a first item Ice Queen Wands to kind of set the fight in their favor. But when Sans went for this build means that he is going to sacrifice a lot of his tankiness, and which in this case, I think a perfect example of a great Jusin player so far in SPS tournament is got to be Sanji, right?
Sanji.
Like, how you play Jusin is pretty much you need to be very, very up and personal and pretty much being able to zone everyone on your own. And Sans hasn't been able to do that because of the composition that Omega has. Like, if he tries to walk up forward, Ryota is there. Tries to walk up forward, Ukir is there. Tries to walk up forward, Chaknu is there to always pressure him from the sides. And I think prior to this fight, the moment Sans got all these 4 items, you can see the impact. But unfortunately, 4 of his teammates is down, and he just couldn't, drag it out a little bit longer here. Yeah. So I feel like in this situation, Fnatic Onic, if they were able to drag the game another 3 to 4 minutes, I think this is where you start to see the power of Jusin.
Yeah, so for the side of Fnatic Onic, they just kind of needed a little bit more time. The final slot onto Jusin is what will probably turn the tide around. But, I gotta have to say, Smart Omega, they went through the entirety of this game, they made very calculated risks, and they understood and identified who are the main few people to really bring down. As we saw that Lutpi constantly being frozen, constantly being caught out time and time again. Sadafa, do you think that was one of the main key issues from the side of Fnatic Onic?
100%. Not having Lutpi in all of these fights is basically taking a 4v5, and if you're taking a 4v5 and one of your heroes is Jusin, you already don't have enough damage to actually contest in that, right? And I think that's why Ukir ends up being the MVP here. Like,
fair.
All those freezes. This is a hero that's really good at disrupting the flow of a team fight, and Onic kind of depends on that flow with a composition like this. So